It is officially time to start a new era, a whole new chapter, a whole new season of life, and therefore a new season of this beautiful podcast where we get to talk about spiritual topics, self-improvement, self-growth, and all the ways that we can align with our highest potential in this lifetime. So first things first, let's address the elephant in the room. Where have I been? Maybe you've been in this community for so many years, or maybe this is the first time that we are ever meeting. Let me catch us all up so that we can all be on the same page together. I started my personal brand in high school. I had no idea that it was going to turn into what it's turned into today. Instagram was first invented around 15 years old for me or something like that, and I don't know what it was, why I had it in me that I just wanted a online community. I think I felt very, very lonely and alone in my family. I felt lonely in my school. I didn't feel like I had many friends, or even that the people that I could connect with me on the topics that I was passionate about. So I always was very passionate about connecting with people online that were like-minded, that were very conscious, that had the same values that I had. And this loneliness honestly was my motivation for posting every single day for 10 freaking years. And over that 10-year journey, I've gotten to connect with the most amazing and inspirational people. I've gotten to make lifelong best friendships. I've gotten to have opportunities that I never could have imagined in my wildest dreams. It has been such a journey, and it's been a journey of blazing my own path, because there weren't influencers when I first started, when Instagram was first invented. There were no courses, there was no information on how to be a digital entrepreneur. The internet hadn't even existed for 20 years yet at that point. So this was a very new time to be putting yourself out there on the internet. And in my personal life, I was very, very misunderstood, and I felt even lonelier trying to put myself out there and trying to connect with people. I had no idea what I was meant to be doing in this lifetime, but for some reason I wanted so badly to connect with people in the digital realms. So I always continued posting. I continued trying different types of ways of sharing different parts of my life and enjoying yoga and enjoying consciousness and spirituality and dabbling into new age spirituality and religion and all of these different topics on my own, but not really getting to talk about them with anyone in this real world and getting to have the most beautiful, incredible conversations ever in the online space. I almost felt like I was kind of living a double life. It was truly such a journey over these past 10 years. There was a time that I went far into fitness and I really identified with fitness and with health. And then there was a time that I went far in other directions as I was gaining my hypnotherapist license. I was learning so much about neuroscience, and I was getting all of these licenses and credentials, and I was doing my clinical hours and all of this stuff. And that's when my content looked very professional and looked very much like I was a therapist, even though I was a hypnotherapist. So my personal brand has really gone in so many different directions over the years. Whatever direction that it went in, it always held the values that are so near and dear to my heart, which is valuing health in every single aspect of the word: mental health, spiritual health, physical health, emotional health. All of the practices, meditations, and rituals that I've shared over the years stem from the value of aligning with your highest potential, setting yourself free from the opinions, words, or projections of others, setting yourself free from the past, and just being completely free from the heaviness that you once carried so that you can launch into your most aligned defined future so that you can have the clarity in your mind to know exactly what steps to take and to be the best version of you. I love to share the value that I do not think that I have all the answers for everyone. I don't think that I'm some guru. I don't ever mistake myself for God by any means. I am a healer, and a healer's job is to support you in connecting to yourself, which is your true healer. That's your true guru, your inner guidance. A healer doesn't show you what they think you should do with your life. A healer shows you how to connect with yourself so that you can do exactly what you are meant to be doing all along. This is such an important value to me, and one that is so rare in the coaching and healing and self-improvement or self-development space. It can be so confusing because people come to me and they ask me for the answers. What should they do? What advice should I take with my life? But I strongly believe in emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence as well. And I know that if someone's asking that question, what advice does this other person have for me? That what you're really lacking is that emotional and spiritual intelligence. You're lacking that trust in yourself to know how to navigate or what choices to make. And so often we've been conditioned, or we've been used to receiving advice. We've been used to some other person, some stranger on the internet, knowing what we should do or knowing more than about us than we do about ourselves. And this is how I'm different, right? Because I truly believe that no one knows you better than you. You're the one who's been with you for every single breath that you have taken in this lifetime, with every single thought, through every single experience. You are the one who knows yourself best. The coaching or the healing work or the guidance that is going to make your life different and better for the rest of your life is going to be guidance that leads you back to that knowing, back to your own inner wisdom, back to the ability to stop doubting yourself, to stop looking for answers outside of yourself, and knowing how to be your own guidance system and when to ask for help and how to ask for help. Something I value above all else is truth and integrity. And I've been on this quest to find truth, universal truth, truth about humans, truth about our brain and our life and about nature and all of these things. I've been on this quest for truth for so much of my life, and I know that I'm not the only one. So many of us here value what is true and value being on a quest towards our inner truth as well. And another big value that I have is integrity. I value integrity so, so deeply. And I know that this doesn't sound life-changing by any means, right? Valuing integrity is something that sounds good. I feel like most people should value integrity, right? But I value integrity so, so deeply. And over the years of my spiritual journey, I've noticed that other people don't necessarily value it in the same way, or might not value it to the degree that I do, or think about it as deeply as I have. And so I've been on this journey of how to be in my authenticity and my integrity and sharing the truth from my soul and from my spiritual journey in a way that can best be received by those that are ready and willing to receive it. It's so beautiful to be able to clearly and confidently state my values to you now, and that's one of the reasons that I have not been as present recently as I was in the past. I have recently been going through something called a Saturn Return. Your Saturn Return happens every 27 to 30 years, and your Saturn Return is happening for you. It can be a really, really uncomfortable time of your life. It can be a time that everything seems like it's shifting or changing without your control. It could be a time that you feel like you're going through a massive spiritual awakening. Maybe you become more aware of the spiritual or energetic impact that other people have on you and the things that you need to do in order to feel like your best self. A Saturn return is full of challenges and lessons and major life changes. If you are around 27 to 30 years old, then perhaps you are experiencing your Saturn return right now. You're going to experience this about every 27 to 30 years or so. So you're going to experience this multiple times in your lifetime as well. But the first Saturn return is the most challenging. So shout out to anyone 27 to 30 years old because you are going through a spiritual awakening like no other. This is also when the brain develops in ways that it has never been able to develop before. The frontal lobe finishes developing at about 25 and your brain is now fully online. It's fully aware, it's fully conscious. And when your brain becomes fully conscious, that's where you can grow in your spiritual maturity and just your maturity in general. The Saturn return experience for us in Western countries can be very jarring and very uncomfortable if you have been living a really mainstream lifestyle up until now, or if you have been maybe unaware of who you are spiritually, unaware of yourself on a soul level, unaware of your soul purpose, or maybe not even on a journey of achieving that soul purpose. If that is the case, then your Saturn return is going to be a lot more challenging than others. And of course, these challenges are not here to throw you off. They're not here to set you back. These challenges bring lessons. They bring really, really difficult lessons that your soul has been needing to learn since the beginning of time. Back far in ancient times, we lived a very, very spiritually connected lifestyle. We lived a lifestyle that was so connected to our gifts, to nature, to rituals, to rites of passage that allowed us to reach our highest potential at every single age that we are, at every single chapter that we're in. And the way that we live in modern times is completely opposite from that. So many of us in these Western countries have never experienced a rite of passage or have never experienced spiritual awakening or having to gain maturity in a communal or collective way, which makes the Saturn return experience so much more jarring. In Western countries, we live this very lone wolf, individualistic lifestyle, and going through something like a spiritual awakening when you are alone, when it is the norm to call this crazy, to say that this is psychotic. I've seen the term spiritual psychosis being thrown around a lot in regards to Saturn returns. And this is very, very dangerous because spiritual maturity and gaining just maturity in yourself is part of your soul's path. It's part of your birthright. It's what you came here to do. This is why Saturn returns exist. And they are not psychotic and they are not crazy. And you're meant to feel a little bit crazy as you're going through neurogenesis. Neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is the process of new neural pathways or cells in your brain being created, which is what's happening on a cellular and biological level as you gain more maturity. So when you go on that bad date and you choose to then go home and journal about what are your values and what did you learn from that experience? What can you do differently next time? You're actually creating neurogenesis. You're creating neural pathways. And when we go on that bad date and then we call a friend and vent about how we think that people are stupid and no one's out there for us and we're just going to be single forever, we are going deeper into those limiting neural pathways that are blocking us from growing and achieving the goals that our soul desires and what our soul knows is out there for us in this lifetime. So a Saturn return is meant to F you up. It is going to be a time that you're thinking about quitting your job, getting a job, changing careers, leaving your relationship, starting a new relationship, wondering if maybe you're no contact with family and you should be contact with family. It is a time of huge change and reflection and growth and so much. During my own Saturn return over the past few years, I did something that I've never done in my entire life, and I decided to move out into the middle of the desert, completely out here. And I had always lived in the suburbs growing up. I had always lived in communities, and in my adulthood, I always lived in apartments. So there was always someone that I was sharing a wall with, or someone down the hall, or someone who I had to watch out for and not be too loud in the evenings or something like that. So I moved all the way out here, and there was so much bittersweetness in this decision. There's so much loneliness in the isolation, but also freedom in that isolation. The freedom to listen to music however loud I wanted to for whatever hours into the night that I desired. The freedom to not be living in society at all. And therefore, when I lived in apartment buildings, there's even just times of day that you can just smell that dinner or breakfast is cooking, or that people are getting home from work, and you'll kind of structure your day based on your environment. Even if you're not living in an environment like that, like no one was coming home from work into my home, I always worked from home, but I could still kind of feel the shift of energy as people were coming home from work, and I could feel this even in the suburbs. And when you're living out here completely isolated, you don't feel any of those energetic shifts that are in society. The only energetic shifts that I feel are the shifts of the seasons. I feel the shifts of the birds that wake up in the morning, and the shifts of literally the change of shifts that the animals go through as they patrol the desert, because they all sleep and wake and hunt at completely different times, and they're all in their own cycles. It's really this beautiful ecosystem out here. So being out here, I learned a lot about nature. I overcame a lot of fear. I spent many nights just sleeping out on the desert floor underneath the moonlight, bleeding into the earth, howling with the coyotes, and just completely rewilding, shedding all of the fears that I once had, shedding the conditioning that I had, shedding the projections that people had put on me. And it was so wild to be just completely out here with myself, because even with no one out here bullying me and telling me, oh, you shouldn't wear this or you shouldn't do that, I could still hear those voices in my mind. And that is the value of being with yourself and of being in isolation, is that you come across your own walls, the walls that keep you in this comfort zone of looking a certain way, sounding a certain way, doing things a certain way. And who put those walls up? I realized that all of those walls were constructed not by me, but by people who had wanted me to be a certain way for one reason or another. And when I could finally give myself the inner child healing, the reparenting, the freedom to be the way that I wanted to be, that's where my confidence could really grow. And honestly, I feel like a completely different person. I know I don't look like a different person. I know I don't sound like a different person, but I feel like a different person because I'm now somebody who has sat with my fears. I've sat with the things that I was once running from and so scared of. I've sat with all of the projections. I've sat out my people pleasing, right? It's kind of like I've done vision quests with certain intentions of getting rid of people pleasing or getting rid of really specific things that I felt were limiting me. And it's like going out into nature with this thing. And then when you're done with the ritual and done with the vision quest or the ceremony, you walk back into your safe environment so much lighter without the heaviness and without the pressure that was once bogging you down. It really is so, so beautiful. There's so many changes that I experienced in my Saturn return. I realized that I had to go back into my morals and my values, even though I've done so much self-improvement work over the years, even though I've been in therapy for 20 years, basically raised by a therapist. But I still had to revisit these things because as we grow, as our brain matures, as we mature, as we grow, our relationship to our values and our clarity surrounding these things can change. And so it's really important to give yourself the time and space to come back into revisiting your values, revisiting what is authentic to you, what is integrity to you. What does it mean for you to be in your integrity? What is really important to you? I spent a lot of time sitting and reflecting on these questions. Now, I know that this sounds so romantical and mystical and magical, and it is. It really, really is. But on a day-to-day basis, it does not feel like that. On a day-to-day basis, it feels like you're losing your mind because your values are changing right before your eyes. The things that were once so important to you are no longer important to you, maybe, or that's how it was for me. Even though I had a personal brand and I was in my soul purpose and in my soul path this whole entire time, the way that that looked in my life has completely changed through my Saturn return. I used to pull all-nighters to finish my editing and really, really prioritize the way that things looked over the value that I was sharing in the messages that I was offering and posting and things like that. And so even though I still post often, even though I still put myself out there, even though I'm still sharing my personal brand, I'm doing it with completely different energy, completely different boundaries within my own life, different values that I have, or more clarity about the values that I've always had. When I started my Saturn return, I was in a relationship that I thought that I was going to be in for the rest of my life. We were going to jewelers, we were picking out rings. I thought that I knew exactly who I was, exactly what I wanted in a partner, what I wanted in life. And I was completely wrong. Through all of my vision quests, through all of my personal meditation journeys, through connecting with my own inner guidance, my higher self, my soul, I was able to see that this whole vision that I had for myself was completely constructed by society. It was constructed by fairy tales that I had been told when I was little about princesses finding their prince charming. And the vision that I had deep in my heart and deep in my soul for what a healthy relationship would look like for me was actually completely different. And so I found myself actually leaving that relationship. And this was really, really hard for me, probably one of my most challenging breakups, because I was not only grieving that relationship, but I was also grieving this vision that I had held on to for my whole entire life that is also called limerence, where you're constantly looking for this Prince Charming type of person. And once I could finally grieve this vision that I had that wasn't even my own, I could connect with the vision that I had deep in my soul. And the vision I had deep in my soul was completely different. And I actually remembered, because I guess I just completely forgot, that I was attracted to women. And so I had a sexual awakening where I got to re-examine what am I attracted to? What am I attracted to in a friend? What am I attracted to in a partner? What am I attracted to in life, in a gym buddy, in joining a yoga studio, this one versus that one? What are the things that I value? Who am I in this world? How do I like to present myself? There were really so many changes that I got to go through in stepping into my authentic energy. I'm really excited to talk more in future episodes about sexual awakenings and sexuality and all of these topics, because I truly believe that if these topics were talked about more, then I probably wouldn't have spent nearly 30 years on this planet feeling very confused, very much like an alien, very much out of my power and just not in my courage and just in my insecurity, able to adopt the projections of others and really just living to people please. I truly believe that this information not being readily available to us is what leads so many women to not feeling in their power. The more that I learned about myself, the more that I could self-actualize, the more that I could step into my highest potential in this lifetime, the more that I could step into my voice, I could speak up for myself, I could know exactly what boundaries and what guidance and things that I needed. But all of this needed some support, right? Because if you are feeling absolutely crazy, if your whole world is crumbling, if everything is shifting, then you really, really need some guidance. And I know that people like to stress so much about professional guidance and seeing a therapist. I've been in therapy, like I said before, for 20 years. So I'm definitely not bashing a therapist by any means. And if you have an amazing therapist that you love to work with, don't stop working with her if you're going through a spiritual awakening. Please, please, please. But what I found was that I needed more support. My most important relationships throughout these years were actually my sacred and secret relationships with these spiritual female mentors that I found on the internet. I literally would find people through a TikTok or something and realize that they were visiting out here, and I would ask if I could have lunch with them, and I would work with them closely for months or years. I found people through Instagram, I found people through threads, and if someone resonated with me, I just reached out to them and I said, hey, how much do you charge for a session? I need to work with you. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know what you can help me with, but I just know that I need to be surrounded by a woman who has gone through the spiritual awakening process, who's asked herself, am I crazy? And has come out on the other side. Because I currently feel so ungrounded. So I found myself working with a lot of different professionals. I worked with professional dating coaches. I worked with professional sexuality experts. I worked with life coaches, holistic healers of all different sorts. I worked with holistic doctors, naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, people who had completely different ways of thinking that are in our society, right? I've done deep mentorship on Pleiadian and Arcturian healing, which is alien healing that we can utilize. I've done deep Reiki sessions, past life regressions, so much support. And throughout this time, people would always ask me, why are you spending your money on this? Why would you just go hire some random person whose TikTok you saw or something like that? Why do you think that they have the answers for you? And honestly, they didn't. These people don't have the answers for you a lot of the time, but just being in the energy of someone who had more spiritual maturity than I did at the time, that is what my soul needed. And putting myself in the environment of people who had emotional intelligence or spiritual maturity or the wisdom that I wished that I could embody so deeply, the more that I put myself in front of those people, the more that I became that type of person. So it's not so much about paying for a specific type of wisdom that you gain from an astrologer or paying for I don't know, like I hired someone to do a deep dive in my human design with me at one point, and people asked me like, well, how much money are you going to make off of that? Like, what does that do for you in the long run? And sometimes the results are not tangible. Sometimes I can't tell you, wow, that one session resulted in me getting doubling my income, finding the love of my life, manifesting my dream car for free, right? All of these tangible things in our society that people like to associate with manifestation and success and achieving your goals. Those sessions didn't always result in that for me. But what they did result in for me was feeling like the healthiest version of myself. And now, when I find myself feeling like I need some spiritual maturity or I need some growth, I need to learn some lessons, I do what I did last night, for example. I have mountains in my environment, in my human design. And so when I find myself feeling ungrounded or needing some wisdom, I'll always climb to the top of the nearest mountain and I'll sit on that mountaintop and just pray. I know that my soul feels most comfortable in this space because it says so in my human design chart. And so when I can follow this wisdom, I don't need to talk to this person every single time I'm feeling ungrounded, right? They taught me what to do, how to rescue myself, how to not abandon myself. I don't need to call a friend. I don't need to get advice. I'm not therefore in conflicts with friends anymore because they're not hearing me. They're not giving me the advice that I need. My friendships have completely elevated because I learned how to be there for myself. And this is a lesson and this is a value that you can't really put money on. You can't really put, oh, that's worth $100 or $100,000 or something like that. And so, yes, I have invested a lot in my spiritual journey. And I know that spirituality is also free. You can go to any church, any temple. You can meditate for free and pray for free right here, right now. You don't need to invest in a spiritual journey. But for myself, it was what I needed to do. And for me, I don't separate money and investing in yourself from spirituality. The more I invested in myself, the more blockages I eliminated surrounding my worthiness wounds, surrounding feeling guilty about investing in myself, about doing what's best for me or listening to myself, right? It was scary. I think that because I've invested so much in my spiritual journey, and for some of us, just spending $20 on a sound bath is like, whoa, like what am I going to get out of that? Where is that $20 going to go? How is this person going to use that? How expensive are these instruments really? How much money is this person making, right? I used to always go to these sound baths or tea ceremonies or things and I would pay to go, but I was also calculate how many people are there and how much the person is making per hour off of me being there, right? Money is so tied to our spiritual journey. And if you are afraid of putting your money in circulation, if you are afraid of spending money on yourself, it's really similar to being afraid to speak up. It's like being afraid to put your energy out into the world because you're afraid of what might happen. There were so many things in my spiritual journey that were such a waste of money. There were people that I hired that were a huge, huge waste of money. I'm actually thinking of a few people just off the top of my head right now that are like, I can see their faces flash into my mind when I think about people that I regret hiring in my spiritual journey. But regardless of that feeling, there's another side of the coin in that same exact memory, which is those people are my greatest teachers. Can you not hear it energetically? Their faces flash to my mind. That's how important these people have been in my life and in my spiritual journey. I encountered people that I felt, how can you be sharing spiritual wisdom when you are not embodying the values, or you're not walking the walk, you're only talking the talk, or something like that, right? I felt burned by people in the spiritual community. I felt that people have lied or scammed when it comes to marketing a program that's a certain way, but it's actually not that way, right? And in all of these experiences, ultimately, I'm so grateful that I was in that environment. God, the universe, source, however you want to call it, needed for me to be in that environment for me to grow. And if I would have been too afraid to invest in someone because I was afraid of the positive that could happen or the negative that could happen, I would be robbing myself of that growth. So I'm really, really grateful that I've committed to growing, that I've committed to being the best version of myself. Whether it's a good day, a bad day, a good session, a bad session, what do those words even mean, right? I have committed to meditating every single day the same way that I commit to hiking and doing all of these other things. And it's really our ego that's trying to determine whether or not something is worth it, whether or not something is getting us closer to our goals. And this ego is valuable. There's so much shit talking about the ego in the world, but the ego can be really, really valuable too. The ego wants to know that something's worth it. It asks us, how do I know that this is worth it? And if you're on a journey of hiking every day or meditating every day, you might notice that the answers are not, oh, wow, I immediately, I guess what I'm trying to explain is the answers might be really, really subtle. But those answers are going to build over time. Maybe going on a hike every single day for a week, you freaking hate it. Maybe it's not working. I actually had a student in my program in the Soul Purpose Portal that her entire first month inside of our program was so rough for her. It was hard for her to get on a schedule of when to meditate during the day. She actually is pregnant, so her body is constantly changing. Her hormones are changing throughout this journey, just throughout this month. So finding a system and a schedule and the journal prompts and the tools and the practices that could really ground her, it took us about 30 days of making changes to that schedule, of testing, of doing some research every single day and making sure that we are being aware of what progress is happening or not happening and then making adjustments accordingly. And after about 30 days, finally everything clicked and she reached out to me and she was like, wow, thank you so incredibly much. Finally, I know the exact practices that I need to stay grounded and peaceful and relaxed throughout the rest of my pregnancy. Now I have the tools and the trainings and the videos that I need to watch in order to be the best mother that I can possibly be, to be grounded in my heart-centered perspective of myself, my heart-centered life, everything that I desire, and reaching my highest potential. And sometimes it takes this uncomfortable period. Sometimes, it takes this uncomfortable period to get there. But the value of being in discomfort with a mentor or with a professional or a guide is that you're not in the discomfort alone. That 30-day period might have cost her her entire 9-month pregnancy, but I was able to see, oh wow, this person is struggling. Let me give them additional support. Let me give them I actually did additional calls with her and helped her and guided her through practices personally, one-on-one, so that I could make sure that the tools that she needed were actually able to sink in and impact her at the time that was most impactful for her in her journey. So this is the value of working with a spiritual guide or a mentor. We might not always see how things are connected. We might not always see the ways in which we can make small changes to deeply and completely elevate our lives and to reach our soul potential. But another person might be able to see it for us. One of the greatest values of guidance in my own personal journey for myself has been having someone that can see the things that you cannot necessarily see. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. It doesn't mean that you're blind. It doesn't mean anything about yourself. All of us have different perspectives on this planet. All of us have different perspectives based on how we grew up, based on our culture, based on our DNA, based on the things that we inherited or the things that we saw, our traumas. And when someone has worked on being able to see things in a very, very clear way, like a coach, a mentor, a guide, a religious leader, something like that, then when you take your problems to that person, you would be shocked at what they might say. There is truly so much wisdom on this planet that is untapped because we all live in our own little realities. We're so used to living in an echo chamber, our friends saying things to us that we're used to hearing, the things that we see on TV that we're used to seeing, and things like that. And when you go work with a spiritual guide or mentor, that's when you can expose yourself to a completely new reality. This is one of my ultimate favorite things about being a guide and mentor myself, because oftentimes people will take a problem to me, they'll share something with me in a session that they've shared with hundreds and hundreds of professionals, and they've maybe been called crazy for this, or they've been told that it's all in their head or that it's no big deal, and I can just simply share a different perspective with them that completely shifts and elevates the reality, allows them to step into a higher level of confidence, of energy, because they're no longer feeling insecure or doubting or looking for answers about this problem. It is so, so magical. I've watched this happen when people have sought out my support regarding marijuana and cannabis consumption, as well as medical issues, illnesses, so many things. I'll give you a few examples right here and right now. I once knew someone who had a heart condition, and this heart condition would it would show up as pain on the right side of the body. And so, with the esoteric knowledge that I have as a professionally licensed spiritual coach, I know that the right side of the body is the masculine side of the body. And the heart has to do with grief, love, family, connection, abundance, all of these things, right? I knew this person very well, and I could see how these symptoms were affecting this person, not just the physical pain on the right side of their heart, but also the inability to connect with the heart. When we would connect with the heart, what we would find is a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, hatred even, and grief. I was able to share with this person that I believe that they're having the materialization of a father wound. Father wound is a fancy way of saying that our soul has been carrying anger towards our father, or distrust towards our father, or wanting to trust more in our father for a variety of reasons for a very, very, very long time. And because our soul has been carrying this wound for so long, our soul, imagine if you break a bone and you never get it set in place. It's just going to heal broken in a way. You might be limping for the rest of your life, so to speak. And this is what happens when we carry a soul wound, like the father wound, with us. Maybe we didn't detect it or notice it at the beginning stages when we were a child, and we would just feel a little bit disappointed or frustrated in our father. And maybe we're still not noticing it now because it went unnoticed for so many years. So now that we're in our 30s or whatever it is, we're experiencing pain on the right side of the body near the heart and wondering what is happening. This person was going to cardiologists, they were going to witch doctors, healers from different countries. They were going to so many different types of people to support them with their health, and nobody was able to make this connection and see that there was this gap in their auric field. I'm so grateful that I was able to share this with this person so that they could start to create healing and forgiveness surrounding their father wound. As soon as they begin this journey, the pain from what is happening, the pain that they're experiencing is going to be dissipating and dissipating. And these experiences, because they were having almost like heart attack experiences, are going to be happening less and less and less. Now, this is very serious. Can you imagine if you were having something like a heart attack experience and this was stemming from a father wound symptom, right? Doctors are not able to tell you what the cause is or what to do and how to fix it, but through looking at your aura and through knowledge and wisdom about energy, we can clearly see exactly what you can do in order to begin to eliminate this pain. I've seen this also happen thousands and thousands of times over regarding PMS and PMDD symptoms. I personally have been diagnosed with PMDD. PMDD is something that affects less than 10% of women, and it's basically extreme PMS symptoms. So what that would look like for me was being hospitalized every single month on my period, being unable to go to school, being unable to think, being literally in bed in excruciating pain. I was diagnosed with Vicodin, with really strong painkillers, and told that I was going to need to be on them for the rest of my life. And even throughout my healing journey, as I stopped taking painkillers, as I started my holistic healing process, I still found myself passing out every single month from the pain, throwing up from the pain, and things like that. Now I no longer experience difficult period symptoms at all, and the reason is because I have allowed myself to heal the chakras and the energy throughout my life, throughout the month, throughout my lifestyle, which contributes to less and less pain in the body, and I'll explain exactly how that works. Growing up, I was taught to suppress my emotions, and so I would kind of swallow my emotions. I could even feel like the Kegel muscles, those muscles around your ovaries, your pelvic area, and things like that. I would feel them tighten up because I was so uncomfortable with things that were being said to me or things that I had to do or whatever it was. It didn't even necessarily have to be hugely traumatic things. It was just feeling uncomfortable and not having anyone check in with me on those feelings or help me navigate those feelings, not having a safe space to be able to scream or cry or throw something, right? I had to be a good little girl, and that meant suppressing all the energy that I was experiencing. So that meant that all of that energy, aka energetic blockages or energetic debris, got pushed down into my solar plexus area and into my sacral chakra area as well as my root chakra area. So that meant that those lowest three chakras, the areas that are where your ovaries are, for example, those lowest three chakras were experiencing massive blockages due to anger, massive blockages due to my feelings about being a woman, my feelings about sexuality, my feelings about myself, feelings about my self-worth, every time I had to suppress something that I wanted to say, it was like it would get locked down into my ovaries in a way. So the more that I allowed myself to step into chakra healing, the more I allowed myself to be a healthy person, to be emotionally intelligent, to express my emotions, the less pain I experienced. And this happened over the course of many years. It was almost like I was tipping out a bucket of pain. Every single month, I would make a 30-day challenge of how I was going to better honor my emotions, honor my intuition, honor things that didn't even make sense to me. If I want to go run around naked with my nipples out, go do that. If I want to pretend I'm a cave woman, or if I want to pretend that I'm a Greek goddess or something, go for it. Like, play, enjoy, imagine, have fun, be an active participant of your life. The more I did this, the less pain I experienced overall. And the more connected I felt to my body, to my nature, to myself as a woman, to my identity, the easier it became to speak up, to talk about vulnerable things, to share difficult topics and things like that. Because I experienced this so drastically within myself, it was really easy for me to mentor, support, and guide other women in experiencing less and less symptoms every month in their own body and in their own life. The steps to do this are going to be personalized to you because your body, your journey, your ancestral lineage, everything is custom. So the ways that you feel quote unquote psychotic when you're PMSing might be a little bit different than the ways that another person feels that way. The wounds that are coming up in your soul during certain times of month might be different than other soul wounds that another person is having. And this is why I've absolutely spent so much of my time over the past few years in one-on-one sessions. Something that I actually feel so bittersweet about because I've been able to deeply and completely elevate women's lives all over the world in just a single session or just a few sessions. It is so amazing, but I've spent so much of my time and energy in this space that recently I was talking to a friend and I was asking her, how I can feel a little bit more fulfilled. I was like, wait a second, I used to feel a lot more fulfilled. I used to feel like I was having conversations with a lot more people than just one person at a time all the time. And we were kind of reflecting on why I felt that way. And then I remembered that it's because I used to post on my old podcast every single day. Can you believe that? I used to post every single day. We used to have the most amazing and fun conversations. When my podcast went top 10 in the world, I got to talk about these topics with people from all over the world in all different countries, and it was so fascinating and so cool. I was having such rich and vibrant conversations, and I just truly felt so expanded. And so I was talking with a friend the other day, and I was like, it's so beautiful and it's so fun to be able to witness all of this growth and all of this transformation within the Soul Purpose portal, but I feel like I'm supposed to be having more conversations right now. How do I have those conversations? And she reminded me about my old podcast and how good it felt to run and manage that podcast. So here we are in episode 1 of the new season, the new chapter of life. I am coming to the end of my Saturn return, coming into the most confident version of myself that I've ever been, getting to share practices and rituals and things with you from all over the world, from all corners of our ancient history. And it is truly so fascinating, so exciting, and I am so happy to be here with you and having this conversation with you. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk about these topics with me, subtle energy, ways that we can reach our highest potential, ways that we can manifest our healing, our growth, our inner peace, and our health for life. It is so expansive, and I'm so happy to be here expanding with you and expanding together. And yeah, I will see you in our next episode. If you would like to chat with me personally, if you would like my personal one-on-one support in your own journey, I do have a few spaces available. My spaces do fill up fast for one-on-one support and guidance with me inside of the Soul Purpose portal. This is where you can access my entire body of work over the years, all the meditations, inner child healing, chakra healing practices that we've done, and literally watch your life get better every single day inside the Soul Purpose portal. It is such a gift to be sharing all of this magical, mystical, esoteric wisdom with you that is, of course, science-based and proven of course. So yeah, thank you guys so much. If you want more information on how we can chat, on how you can work with me, check out the description box below, check out the show notes, however you're watching this, and click that link on getting more information about the Soul Purpose Portal. Once you click there, you'll be redirected on booking a one-on-one free consultation with me. Again, a one-on-one free consultation where I get to talk with you about exactly what's going on in your spiritual awakening process and how you can make the most of your life and make sure that you reach your highest potential and see progress in yourself every single day. I'm sending you so much love, so many blessings. I hate ending podcast episodes because I could just be here with you all day. But again, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Have an amazing day, night, whatever time it is for you. And I hope that you reach all of your goals and more this week because you deserve it.